I now hand the conference over to Mr. P.S. Reddy, MD and CEO. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, and let me welcome again the analysts for this Q1 call, and thank you for showing interest and faith in the company as usual, and we will continue to strive to do better each quarter given the constraints whatever we have it. Let me explain as it happened in the last time. The peak margin is the circular of peak margin is impacting the ADT, as you all know that. Now that it has become 75%, now the final one will come on 1st of September, when the 100% peak margin has to be collected by the member brokers. And incidentally, we have done an analysis of the impact over, how it worked pre-imposition of the peak margin and post-imposition of it in each phases. That is when it is introduced 25%, 50%, and now 75%. If you see the impact from phase 0 to phase 3 so far, it's almost all about 21%, and most of the impact was felt in the between phase 1 to phase 2. Now, in phase 3, the impact is about 3%. That's the way it is. We are at this phase, so we lost about 20% plus, okay, 20.65. That's what it shows. We lost ADT. Another good part of it is, which we must look at it is, the top 15 losers of the exchange, the traders, about 10,000 crores they lost, and top 15 gainers have got another 5,000 crores. So that leaves little over 5,000 crores is the loss. So it's not that it has impacted everybody. There are some who gained, there are some who lost. I'm sure the system is, and the traders and the investors are getting used to this peak margin circular. And that's why in this quarter, or rather in this third phase, the impact is about 3 to 4%. So not much has been felt. And hopefully going forward also, we will see that that kind of impact. The second point which we should also look at is, most of the impact that has been felt is some of the traders, okay, who are regional players. Okay, it's not so much of the national players, and the gain that have come as from those national players who are offering retail services. So as a result, our UCC numbers also are not substantially impacted. When I say substantially, in fact, UCCs till the unique client code traded from April to July, whatever the time period that we covered, maybe till 23rd of July or whatever it is, it's about 246,600 UCCs, as against in the corresponding period last year, 236,000. Okay, so UCCs are increasing, but the substantial increase has come in the options contract. Okay, so options volumes are also going up, that you have seen, and currently in the month of July it's almost all 4,800 crores. But in the quarter we have about 2,000 crores. 1 minute, I will tell you. We have about 1,900 crores, the notional turnover. Another important thing that I would like to inform is that last time I informed that we have extended the what we call zero tariff period on option contracts till 30th of September. Now we have decided we will start charging from 1st of October and we have already issued a circular. The transaction fees will be on a notional premium daily premium of 5 crores. There will be a 50 rupees per lakh premium, 50 rupees per lakh premium up to 5 crores. And if it exceeds beyond that, there will be 40 rupees. So that will be an incremental, much like your income tax slabs. So you will charge up to 5 crores at the rate of 50 rupees per lakh premium and over and about 40 rupees. So this is something that we have come across. That the number that we are coming across is the notional ADT to the premium. The ratio is about 1.5%. Okay, so if it is 1,000 crores and 1.5% of it happens to be the premium, and then these kind of calculations will fall in place. This is one important development that we have. Then comes to we have also introduced just recently the silver mini contract, options contract, which you are aware all aware of it. Another one is the cross margin benefit has been extended just from today onwards. We got SEBI's approval, and cross margin benefit on index futures versus the underlying the commodities futures. And if one has got a contrapositions between the two, they will get the cross margin benefit. So that is also implemented with it from today. So these are the important developments I thought I should share with you. And as we go along, I will ask, people can ask questions. And would you like to inform, I will hand it over to Mr. Polar if he has got few more submissions to make.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. As we have declared our financials, you have seen that in spite of the challenging times, we have been able to maintain our profit as well as the top line as compared to the last March quarter. And we have been able to control our expenses. So net we are flat. These have been tough times, but we've been able to keep our costs flat. Yeah, we'll go into details as and when you ask questions. Thank you.
We'll keep it open for question answers more time. Is that fine?
Sure. Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Mohit Kumar from DAM Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. And congratulations on the decent set of numbers. Sir, I have two questions. First is on cross margin. How do you think the cross margin is going to impact our volumes in the sense peak margin, of course, has affected negatively, but how much will it compensate, to an extent? That's my first question.
Yeah, go ahead. Ask the second question also. I will answer the
second question, sir, on the crude margin, which are roughly around 20% right now. I think earlier it was to be 6-7%. Can we expect this margin to go down in the next few months?
Okay, it's done.
Yes.
Okay. You see, the cross margin benefit otherwise is available on other products. Okay. This is with respect to indices, index features versus that is Bulldex and Metaldex versus the underlying commodities. So how does it affect? We are expecting our Bulldex and Metaldex turnovers to increase. When we have also applied for the energy index to SEBI. If that also start getting traded, then that will also get the same benefit. So it is index futures versus the underlying commodities. And does it impact? Does it help in increasing the turnover? Definitely, it will help. Margins will be lowered to that extent.
Understood. So you're expecting higher volumes in the indices. Am I right, sir?
Yes, we are expecting that. That's what.
And on the crude margin, sir? Crude margin?
Yeah. On the crude margins, currently we have to keep at this level only, but we are hopeful that we will be able to further lower it. And, there are a lot of nitty-gritty involved in terms of stress test results, and stress test takes into account 15 years of volatility and the prices into account. And the worst effect of that price point is the negative pricing. Otherwise, the stress test results would definitely show a comfortable margin. And we have to consider even those extreme scenarios also. And it is under discussion. Either our SGF should be substantially increased to reduce our margins on crude oil, or the margins have to be, or SEBI has to relax the conditions with respect to the stress test calculations, or we have to maintain higher margins as and when the open interest increases in the contract. Then we need to increase the margins. But we are working out an alternative. Let us see how it works. But our intent and interest is all the time to reduce the margin on crude oil. It is too heavy, and we all acknowledge that. And we will be able to reduce it. That's what my positive sense is.
One more question from my squeeze. So done a MOU with EEX. So what is this MOU, and how closer we are to launching this electricity contract? Let's say if you get a Supreme Court order, let's say next 1 month, can we see the electricity derivative contract by in next couple? Let's say after the order in a couple of months. Is that understanding right?
Yeah. With EEX, it's more exchange of information, exchange of knowledge, and knock their door when we need some clarifications or how you handle a particular situation, etc. This is a more to do with that. But our contracts will be settled based on the IEX prices, our domestic energy leader, IEX, and we work on their closing prices. That is what we have already entered into agreement. This is one part of it. We have been doing extensively, notwithstanding pending in the Supreme Court, the awareness programs with every stakeholder. As a part of that, we have organized recently also some awareness with some senior officials of some of these things, some of these institutions. And even EEX has also conducted a 2-day workshop, including to our officials, SEBI officials, and the CERC, and it's all learning for us. And we are there. Our contract has been filed with SEBI almost 6 months ago, if I am not mistaken, and it is still, or even more than that. It is just waiting for the Supreme Court order to come. And we are also making effort, filing some kind of application to activate that, to get the order out at the earliest. That's how it is.
Understood, sir. Thank you and best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from the line of Rohit Balakrishnan from iThought Portfolio Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rohit.
yeah, sir. Hi. Good evening, sir. Sir, I have just one question. I just wanted to understand a bit more about this software that you are building. You are giving the contract to TCS. So just wanted to, there is a note mentioned here. So can you just explain a bit? There is some dispute, and just wanted to understand when is the go date that you are expecting. Earlier, I think it was September of next year, if my memory serves right. So can you just help me understand what is the issue here, and is there any chance of this sort of not going through?
Okay. I think there is some kind of misunderstanding, at least going by understanding of the question with you. And there's no dispute with TCS. TCS thing is going on, and that is to develop a commodity derivatives platform which we are currently having with our vendor 63 Moons, which the contract ends in sometime in September next year. Okay, so that is one part of it. It's happening. That's not the issue. There's no dispute at all on that. Okay, the issue related to the PESB, which is where a spot spot platform development contract was awarded, and the ask and then what is delivered is not up to the mark, and then this is not completely developed. Put it that way. And that is where our dispute arose, and some payment has been withheld, and that is where they went to Singapore International Arbitration, and it's almost all is a finalization stage, I would say that, and definitely we will be able to close it by the end of September. Vis-a-vis the dispute is concerned, and closing the contract with PESB is concerned, and the essentially the way that we have been guided by the lawyers is that better to settle it, because one is that there are a lot of legal expense involved in Singapore arbitration. Even if you award, then the execution you have to go to London, and then again we don't know fully the financial worthiness of the opposite party, and then spending money on that is another big question mark. But we will take over the code and then see. There is another assessment will be done by our SCT, who will look at the code and then whether additional resources have to be given, not given, or is it worth developing to further enhance it for the spot platform. These two are separate. One is to resolve the dispute. Another is whether we can use the code or not. Is a different aspect of it. So that is the issue currently, and we are handling that part as explained.
Understood. No, sorry, sir. I think I misread it. I remember this issue and slightly issue. I understand. So the other question that I had was, in terms of the spot exchange on gold. So any update on that side? I think SEBI has come out with some draft paper also. So just want to get your views, any update on that, and then we see these things sort of practical.
See, on the domestic gold spot exchange, yes, it was put up for the public comments by SEBI, and everybody has given their comments, and SEBI called for the working group meeting where we are also part of it. And the thought process that is there is whether you should do it in the same exchange as a segment, or you should do it in the existing segment, or you should do as a separate exchange, a completely different exchange, so that it will have its own regulatory framework. It need not be coupled with the existing regulatory framework of in the equity markets or in the commodity market, because every commodity requires certain breathing space, and for it to develop and then foster. So spot exchanges are new to us in that sense. So they need to have a different treatment in terms of regulatory architecture and all that. So this is the, broadly speaking, this is what the discussion that went into, and probably no final decision is taken. That's the way it is. Unless the regulatory structure is finalized, we will not be able to comment further on it, the way forward.
Okay, fine, sir. Thank you very much, sir. All the best.
Thank you. Participants who wish to ask a question, please press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. Ladies and gentlemen, to ask questions, please press star and one. The next question is from the line of Aman Shah from GT Investments. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi. Good evening, sir. So my question is on deliverable metal contracts. When we started, there was some increase in the tonnage that we were delivering. While in FY21, we see a decrease over FY20. As well as in Q1, there has been a flattish delivery of metal contracts. Can you please highlight what's the reason where we are not seeing any increased traction or increased delivery of these contracts?
As you understand that, let me see this. The delivery percentage, in the futures market, especially the platform, not mainly intended to have a delivery. Delivery is a last resort, okay? Because we expect the prices to converge with the spot prices. That is why we keep the threat of delivery is always there for the people who who recklessly trade. Maybe that fear will be there. And that is the reason why delivery thing has been kept. Having said this, we are increasing, especially in the metal contracts, increasing the number of delivery centers. It has got both sides to it. One is that our contracts are delivery choice is at the seller's end. And the buyer have no option. He has to take delivery if he has to do it. If he doesn't close his contract, the buyer, then he will end up getting delivery maybe at any of the centers. So to mitigate that risk, on the one hand, we wanted to increase the number of delivery centers. Now we have seen Raipur. Okay, we have made Raipur as an additional delivery center for aluminium. We have seen 6,500 tons of metal that was delivered in the month of I think April, May. I don't exactly remember, or May maybe. Okay, it was delivered. The point I'm making is if you add more delivery centers, the players who are in that region will start joining it. But because of the uncertainty, some buyers may be exempted. So both sides it is there. So we are looking at what you call a swap kind of a window where people do not want, and they can always swap it with the location where they would like to have the delivery, or give the delivery where they don't want. This is one part of it, but it's under development. This, I think last time also said that, but it requires an IT development. That's what the relevant response is. But another important thing is the GST. The more we increase the number of delivery centers, there are also the people who are supposed to be trading in this contract must be having GST registration in the respective states. This issue has been flagged off at the highest level in the finance ministry and Central Board of Indirect Taxes and SEBI and exchanges and CPI. There was a discussion, on this, how to resolve it. What is our ask? Our ask is very clear. We want IGST to be replacing the CGST, GST, and so multiple registrations would not be requiring it. Second, as long as they are in a demat form in the form of com risk, then ideally that should not be covered at all, because the metal doesn't move anywhere. Metal is just lying there. It's like a security in that sense, and securities in demat are not covered. That's the kind of response we are giving it. But in a worst case scenario, there are people who do not require GST registration, but for the sake of this particular taking delivery or doing financial arbitrages who buy in this month and then deliver in the next month, they have to take unnecessarily delivery. Then we are looking at another model where is a designated entity model who will be registering in the respective states wherever the warehouses are going to be located, and this designated entity will have a subledger and maintaining their profiles and then giving credit, debit, all the whatever that needs to be done. It requires some changes in the act, so we have already flagged it off and taken it up. And this is the status at this point in time, and this is the reason also why some of the deliveries are lower. But that should not be the reason for us not to expand the number of delivery centers. We would like to do that, and at the same time introduce this swap model, which will immediately address some of the concerns. I hope I answered your question.
Okay. That was quite insightful, sir. We just thought with hedges, corporate hedges coming more onto our platform, the deliveries would also tend to increase. But you highlighted the reasons why there are some issues that are still there. Can you highlight something on the hedges side? Where are we in that journey on hedging or hedges coming onto our platform, sir?
Yeah, I think I do not have immediately the numbers, but then hedges participation has been increasing in all these contracts. I don't have it, but then that is for sure. That so much I can say this. Hedges participation has been increasing, and it has been also displayed on website also, if I am not mistaken. I have individual commodity-wise numbers, but then that is not appropriate for me to disclose anyway.
Sure.
But yes, hedges participation has been increasing. That's all I can say.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Lavanya Todala from UBS. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are very much audible. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. So it would be really helpful if you can help us understand the impact of this peak margin on the options volumes. So option volumes increase significantly, and at each stage whenever the peak margin has been increased. So how do you see this go ahead, and when September, when it will be 100%, will it increase more? How do you see this? Any impact analysis on option volumes?
But you are absolutely right that volumes have started increasing. But as I told you, it just happened in the month of July. It has become 5,000 crores, almost 4,980 or so, and for the entire quarter, it is almost all 1,900. 1 minute. Yes. No, sorry. Yes, it is 1,900. Okay, and so it is for me. It is too early for me to say that peak margin had helped, but the indication suggests that that is the route that they are taking. But at the same time, if you see the composition of this particular growth, a substantial part is in a crude oil. So where the margins are almost 23%, 20 plus, of course, 3% is additional margin. And in the month of, in all these months, it is the crude oil which is doing very well in options. And if in the month of July, almost 3,800 crores is the crude oil composition, and rest are still smaller. Of course, gold and silver are also there. So we are looking at diversifying into it, but since crude oil contribution in futures is less, I'm sure in addition to the peak margins, probably this particular higher margins in the crude oil is helping us to diversify the investors to get into the options. That's the way it is.
Okay, got it. So is it fair to assume that when crude margins reduce to normal levels in the futures, the relevant option volumes might reduce.
Not
there is a possibility, or
not necessary. Not necessary.
Okay.
In fact, going forward, everybody says that index options is something which has to, be the highest, the volumes. But then, as of now, we are index futures itself. We are about 300 and odd crores. So we are trying to ramp up that because they are all cash settled. The beauty out is cash settled contracts. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, as we started talking about index futures, what do you see the drivers which are needed for the volumes to pick up? So, though they are cash settled, still the volumes are hovering around the similar levels over the past few months. So, do you see anything which is hindering the volumes, or any other requirements that people are looking for trading? So, what is that can drive index futures more?
No, see, volatility is, whenever volatility is there, and I think we have seen good amount of volumes in this, along with the underlying commodities. Now that cross margin benefit has come, I'm sure that will also benefit, that will help in increasing the volumes in this index futures. That's what we are looking at.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aruj Narayan from Spark Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. My question is on just to understand what is the impact of this cross margin benefit on our overall ADTO or in terms of liquidity. Can we quantify that?
See, as I said, the cross margin benefit is start giving today onwards. Okay, so we got the what you call approval, and then started only today. So it is too early for me to say anything, but then it will definitely benefit.
Okay.
It will benefit.
Sir, and on the contract with TCS, even that is starting only from September, or we have already seen some benefit in this quarter. Can you comment on that?
No, it's a huge platform. There are 3 stages of development, and then drops we call them. The first drop has been delivered. Testing is going on. There will be a second drop, and there will be a third drop. Then after the third drop, the parallel runs will be done with the member brokers, and as also the mock testings will also be conducted about 3 months or so, each one of them. So we have already issued circulars to member brokers. These are the APIs to integrate with the TCS system, and almost all 300 member brokers we have interacted. They all are fine with that because T7 platform is already being used by BSE, and some of them are, many of the member brokers have used these APIs. So that's the way it is. The impact, I don't know in what sense, financial impact, have we paid anything, all that kind of thing. I think there are milestones that are given in the contract. Accordingly, we will be paying.
Okay. So TCS platform will be completely used from this September. Am I right, sir? Or
No, not this September. As I told you, it is see, you have an agreement with 63 moons till next year September. I'm saying next year September it will be implemented.
Okay. Fine. Thanks, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vinit Maru from Birla Sun Life. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Sir, I just wanted to understand your investment book. What is the composition of the investment book? And, how should we expect, your other income to move based on that? Could you throw some light on the investment book composition, please?
Thanks. So we have a large chunk of our investments in mutual funds, and our investment committee has proactively reduced the exposure. So we're basically into short-term, ultra short-term funds. That is one. We also have some investments in tax-free bonds and also in perpetual bonds. So this is how it goes. And perpetual bonds are accounted under the amortized system method of accounting, while the others is, we don't have a choice. It's under the fair value. So going forward, I mean, you're aware the debt markets are volatile, but hopefully RBI will be able to, I mean, that is what we hear. And whenever we meet experts from your industry, they keep guiding us that they expect RBI to keep rates at least for this financial year, till this calendar year. So hopefully we should be able to maintain the same level going forward. But we are into, as I said, ultra short-term funds. A major chunk of our investments.
Right. So how big is the tax-free bond portion?
Tax-free bonds, it's around a bit less than around 6 to 7% of our total investment.
Okay. So that is a volatile component, right? Because short-term and ultra short-term funds and perps, as you said, is amortized, so they are not the volatile components.
But even the mutual funds, there would be some movement would be there, isn't it?
Yeah, but since they are on the lower end of the curve, it won't be that much. I understand.
Yes, I take it.
Okay. So should we understand that current level of other income is the one that should not fluctuate too much, right? I
hope so. I mean, it depends on the underlying, isn't it? On the interest rate. So I mean, what it was in June was interest rates were better. I mean, when we closed June, it was around 6.03 or something, 6.05. Now it is 6.1316. The 10-year. Right. No, I understand. Because of those interest rate changes, there might be some change in the fair value, right? There's no component of large unrealized gain or anything that you can have, going ahead, right, by booking some profits. No.
Nothing like that. Because anyway, everything is fair value now almost.
That's right.
Okay. Understood that. So my second question is on income tax. Can you just explain, what is the income tax benefit that we are currently enjoying and for how long will it last?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we have our tax-free bonds. Obviously, the interest is exempt. Also, we had some brought forward long-term capital gains losses, which we would during the year exhaust. And we also have a MAT credit balance of around 12 crores in our books. Okay, so once we exhaust the MAT credit, then we'll go back. We'll use a normal income tax rate of 22% plus surcharge, and hopefully that would be from next financial year. From the way things are moving, maybe from next financial year we'll do. But this year I'm using the budgeted rate as per the Indian accounting standards, and whatever changes I have to do, I'll do it in the March quarter. So it will be more or less at this rate, and in March we will take a final call on the income tax.
Understood. So my last question is to Mr. Reddy. So it's regarding the delivery of contracts, right? So you were talking about, sir, about increasing number of delivery centers, which helps in that. And obviously, once you have a network, then all those swaps are possible that you were talking about. So can you just talk about, what is your plan in terms of adding the number of delivery centers? What kind of capex, etc., it takes from our side? Can you just throw some light on that area, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't get what kind of capex?
What is the plan in terms of ramping up number of delivery centers, and what kind of capex, if at all, it takes from our side, from MCH's side?
There's no capex involved in it, and CCL simply hires a warehouse service provider. You have a Steinweg, you have Yamada, you have Origo, or whatever, whosoever player is willing to do that. And, we hire them and then they open that center there. That's the way it is. And there's no capex involved. And we have already announced by way of a circular, for Zinc, Calcutta is been identified as additional delivery center because there are a lot of galvanizing Zinc is used in galvanizing industry, and a lot of industries are there. So that is one area we have looked at it. For nickel, we have made additional delivery center Chennai because nickel is entirely imported material. We have one in Thane and the other one will be in Chennai. And the third is the lead. We have opened one more delivery center. Will be opening in up north because there are a lot of battery manufacturers are there, or the inverter manufacturers are there, and they will also be using this product. So we need to look at either producer-centric or consumer-centric. That kind of approach is what we are looking at it. To mitigate the what you call risk of buyers getting delivery elsewhere, we are going to introduce the swap facility also. So we are working parallelly on all these things. So it should increase the participation on the exchange platform, especially the hedgers.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arish Mehta from BNP Paribas. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Sorry if I missed early part of the conversation. So last month there was a news in media article that SEBI may open up with commodity future for FPI. So any development there, sir? Can you help us to understand at what stage it is currently and by when you expect?
Yes. All that I can say is that MCX facilitated a meeting with the FPIs or FIs and some of the EFEs, eligible foreign entities. And there's a very good participation. Almost all, about 59, 60 people have attended, and all put together, of course. And they have given their inputs, what kind of relaxations are needed. They are not too big a number to begin with, but at the same time, they want the concessions that they have asked is much the same as what they have given in currency or equities, in terms of registration requirements, in terms of open interest, okay, what is kept, or whether they need to have what you call they should have hedged underlying commodity in India. That's the kind of one requirement for FPs to participate. They said that that's not the case anywhere in the world. Okay, and you may have a hedge position in India, but still you go and then hedge in LME. Isn't that's what many people are doing it? So it is immaterial where they have it. It should not be linked to that. And similarly in currency, about up to 100 million, there is no such requirement exposure to any of the currencies. So a similar kind of benefit should be given. So this is being debated and discussed, and I'm sure a considerate view will be taken by SEBI, keeping all stakeholders' interests.
Any timeline, any deadline SEBI had given for this? No. When you expect this to happen?
Obviously, we cannot,
okay.
Neither they will give it, but they will do it. That's the way my sense is. I'm sure they are equally responsible for developing this market. No.
Right. Sir, my second question is with regard to, can you just help us to understand how much percentage of volume is coming through online, algo channel of total volume?
Yeah, it remained around 45. It remained
45%. Okay. 45%. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from the line of Sri Karthik from Investec. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity of a few questions. Our average realization has been declining on a YOY basis. So what's leading to this decline? Is it the product mix or the mix change in terms of the participants?
See, we have two tariff slabs. Okay. And if the concentration increases, obviously the people will move into a higher slab. So obviously the average realization will come down. But here, I think this quarter it has improved. That's what
Sequentially, yes. On a YOY basis, it's down. So I'm trying to understand why on a YOY basis it's reduced.
See, generally, if you notice on a Y-on-Y basis, when the volumes are low, the realization is better.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's why when you compare it to June 20, if you recollect, June 20 was a bad quarter for us because of the lockdowns and truncated trading hours. So it was a bad quarter for us. But this is a normal. I mean, we're in a normal situation. And compared to March, the second and third decimal, there's an improvement in the second and third decimal.
Okay. Secondly, the status of your electricity derivatives product launch.
I think I have explained. We are yet to get the Supreme Court, permission. In the sense, it's nothing to do with our contract as such, but it is overall the dispute between SEBI and CERC that is being decided.
Yeah.
That is yet to come out. The outcome is we are waiting for that.
Sure, sir. And if you could tell us what is the shareholder cash on balance sheet currently?
Yeah, so when we look at it on a standalone, we have around 1,200 crores of cash. Yeah. Consolidated is around 1,700 crores.
But that would include the...
Consolidated, I included the margin money, so it's around 1,200 crores.
Yeah. And it would include SGF and IPF also in it?
No, it doesn't include that.
Okay. And then any regulatory capital required in terms of what you need to keep keep to ensure for the exchange license?
See, we need to strengthen our SGF definitely. Okay. Now, why we need to strengthen it? If you don't strengthen it, and then if the stress test result shows that you need to, have so much of SGF, then you increase the SGF cover or increase the margin so that somewhere you should get the cover such that SGF, stress test results are matched with that number. So obviously, it's good to have maybe SGF you increase it, and if that is increased, then you lower the margins and then earn a higher maybe an ADT, and that may result in higher volume. Higher revenue, and maybe the interest that you are earning may be compensated. Whatever you are doing, more than compensated otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Devesh from IIFL Securities. Please go ahead.
Good evening, sir. If you can share an update on institutional participation as well as bank subsidiary, where are they in terms of rolling out?
One bank subsidiary is moving aggressively, and we are getting good volumes month after month. And the others are just there wherever they are. Unfortunately, they are not moving. And again, peak margins have further dissuaded them from going any further. And but one bank subsidiary, one bank is moving very aggressively. That's a good point of it. That's good to note. On the other institutions, mutual funds, others, that's also very encouraging. And mutual funds are participating very actively in this particular. In our contracts. That's the way I see. I think some more reforms may come. I don't know when they will come, but we are working on it. That's all in terms of institutional participation. That's the way I would like to reserve my comments on this. Nothing more on this.
Okay. So can you identify the bank subsidiary that you said is doing well?
ICICI Securities.
ICICI Securities, understood. And in terms of the index derivative, this cross margining, although you indicated that directionally it is positive for the volumes, is there any number that you could share that over the next 12 months?
No. I never give. Sorry, that's not correct.
No problem.
I will not be able to give. Yeah.
No worries. And sir, on TCS software thing, any incremental numbers that you could share in terms of what could be the cost that we are looking at, or? Is there more crystallization of savings from the software expenses?
No, in terms of, we know the numbers in terms of crystallization, all that, but then it's not proper for us to disclose any of them because there are contractual obligations on our part not to disclose the number. But as and when we start incurring expenditure, I'm sure in each of the quarter you will come to know of it, what we have paid and all that kind of thing. You will know the amount that we are incurring.
Okay. And so when we see your UCC numbers, the one that you disclose in the presentation, I think that is close to 7 million. But I think the UCCs that have traded in last 1 year, I think that number is very small compared to the UCC numbers, that total UCC numbers. So we are seeing a significant increase in total UCCs, but not in the UCC which have traded. So why is this a disconnect? And do you think that UCCs that have traded will grow in coming quarters?
Yes, good question. In the sense that brokers now consolidating their what you call memberships. So earlier they had one for equity, one for commodities, and maybe for each exchange they may had one. And with this consolidation, they are able to, when they are onboarding the client, they are onboarding across all exchanges. So the number, they will upload that information and then UCC get uploaded. And so the client is ready to trade. So it is for the broker to, just to what you call educate him and do what he wants to do on this platform. So it's because of that reason the UCC's account the number of UCCs uploaded are increasing, but activation, the clients who are trading will remain depending on the kind of effort they are putting, the member brokers. Is that clear?
Yeah, but any direction, sir? You think this traded numbers will also see a growth in coming quarter, or difficult to say that?
No, if I'm not mistaken, I said that till last year corresponding period May, that is from April to July, July 23rd or whatever it is, both futures and options were about 236,000 UCCs have traded, and till now, in the current year, 246,000 plus have traded. So there is a 10,000 more UCCs traded in this 4 months time additionally. But not that we are satisfied about it, but the regulatory framework is getting tightened. That's another reason why we need to, we are lagging behind in that sense of the term. We're not able to get more UCCs activated.
Understood. And one final one, sir. What is the expected effective tax rate for the year?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it will be around 25, between 25 and 26%. But we'll take a call in March. So this is a budgeted figure, and as when we go to March, we'll be able to crystallize the figure, arrive at a more effective rate.
Right, but if I'm not wrong, sir, last time I think on the call you indicated around 17-18%. So
that was around 19%. So as I said, we're using the budgeted rate, which is around 26%. So we'll continue till December, and then when we come to March, we will the effective rate would be around
MAT credit or
because we have MAT credit and all that.
So any adjustment will be done in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aditya Guribande from Piper Serica. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. So, sir, I just wanted to understand, we have a ADT 21% growth. So why our revenue has declined in spite of, our volume has increased by 21%. So just wanted to understand that.
No. I think probably you have not heard me right, but it was 21% fall. That's what we said, not growth. From the peak margin impact, the way that we have explained it, the peak margin have impacted. I said from the P0, which is the prior to the peak margin imposition, and till now, if you see, there is a 21% fall, of which 17% has taken place in the in the first and second, say more majorly in second, and then the third one it has happened about 4%, 3 to 4% is what I said.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from the line of Nilesh Jethani from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So pardon for the lack of information on the software side. My information on the software side. So just wanted to understand the new vendor, that is TCS. So when we pay out the money to the new vendor, so one of the, of course, component would be the software variable fees. One would be the AMC charges. Do we also pay something upfront, the lump sum amount for the development of the software?
See, the AMC is also there. That is a very small component of it. As I said maybe in one of the calls, I said it is a single-digit figure. That's what I said. And even the annual increment is also a single-digit figure. And as regards to the AMC upfront payment, we have not paid anything upfront. There are milestones that are there. As per the milestones, once the delivery comes, then we will pay. That's the way it is.
Okay. Milestone as in development of the software?
Yes, development and delivery also.
Okay.
As I said, when we have done a drop 1, there will be drop 2, drop 3, and then after that UAT testing, acceptance testing rather. And then there are parallel runs. It is divided into multiple milestones.
So when we total this entire milestone, so any rough idea what would be the quantum of amount we will be paying upfront? So that amount is supposed to be paid out by at least September of next year. So what would be the outflow in that sense?
That amount would be amortized, and then we will that amount that you have mentioned. See, there will be two costs. Just to add to what MD said, one would be the capex, the other one would be the AMC. So now we are in the stage where the software is being developed. So once presently whatever we are incurring would go under capital work in progress. So once we go live in September 22, we will amortize it over a period of 6 years. And then that amortization charge would be there to the P&L, right? And then after a year, that is from September 23, the AMC would kick in because there would be a 1-year warranty. And after that, the AMC would kick in. That's when the AMC would come in. But for this year, everything would be under CWIP. Most of it would come under CWIP till September 22. I hope that answers your query.
Yes. And one last thing. So currently, I believe the software variable fees is around 10.3, 10.5%. So any guidance on this number from the TCS would be 100, 200, what basis lower?
No, I see. That's where I wanted to say. So currently, we are paying a fixed amount, which is about 10.6 crores, and then on the link to ADT also there is. So the variable fee is also there. As far as TCS is concerned, there is no variable fee. That is the way it is.
Okay, understood. So that would be savings for us probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those were my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the last question in queue. I would now like to hand the conference back to Mr. P.S. Reddy, MD and CEO, for his closing comments.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you for patiently remaining present and listening to the conversation. And some of you have asked very interesting questions. But as I always inform you that we work in the best interest of all shareholders, and we will continue to do so. And given the regulatory regime and other market conditions, I think this is the best we have done, and we will continue to improve our working. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Multi Commodity Exchange of India Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You may now disconnect your lines.